I would say some big issues are dealing with stereotypes and how we interpret those stereotypes within our community. I would say another sort of issue we deal with is having pride be a legitimate sort of positive reinforcement of our place in society rather than just this big party that it tends to be looked at, and saying that our rights are important and what we do is active and what we do is for the benefit of society.
Gay bashing is a major issue, prejudice, and less equality.
Well, more than ever, I think it's pretty united, just with the passing of gay marriages in a lot of different states. So it's kind of nice that it's coming together. I don't really have too many complaints about it right now.
I still think acceptance from all people. I love it when I'm in a city like Seattle that has a lot of that, but I come from a rural part of California where there isn't much acceptance, so
depends really regionally on where people live. We're pretty lucky here in Seattle that we have a lot of rights that that we kind of take for granted, I think, that we've worked hard for. But on the east side of the state, there are people that can't come out as easily and are having issues with that. So I think it's getting a message out to a broader community, and I think that's the major one.
I think some of the most important issues right now facing the LGBTQ community have to do with homeless youth, probably AIDS prevention and awareness, and making sure that people are getting tested and taking care of their bodies. I don't know. What do you think?
Really, I think that's kind of the big bulk of it. It's continuing to fight for rights. It's continuing to fight for equality across multiple spectrums, whether it's for marriage, whether it's for healthcare, whether it's for partner rights, disability rights. Health is a big one in my mind. I think as healthcare continues to evolve and to change, I think we have a huge generation gap between when HIV/AIDS first hit the scene and, what we're dealing with now. So getting the word out to get tested constantly and consistently and really know your status is a big, big thing. And I think especially with youth and even homeless youth in specific. So, I think there's a lot of things that are important to our community that we still need to kind of continue to fight for and to push and to promote and to educate. So.
Well, and the more that we as a community get more acceptance in the general public, as we have been doing, thankfully, over the last few years, I think it's important for those of us that are a little bit older and have, been a part of the community for a little bit longer to help to educate, those up-and-comers who might not necessarily know about AIDS and HIV and, all of the different things that you do have to think about. So.
What do I know about homelessness in the community? That it's huge, actually, that there are more homeless youth within the LGBTQ community than there is in any other kind of subculture or youth in the country. With just everything that they're dealing with and everything that they're, being cut from families, being cut from communities, being cut from resources. There's, the lack of resources that are in communities out there is just so slim to none. So, we really need to kind of rally around our youth, and we really need to help them kind of get back on their feet, because that's a huge thing.
Absolutely.
We really need, and again, this is kind of that part where it comes into educating and supporting, and we are a big family, and it needs to be treated like that.
Absolutely.
I know I've actually, where I used to live, I would have friends who, when they came out, their parents kicked them out, and I've had friends live with me because they had no other place to go. But I know that there are other people that aren't as lucky and don't have that. And so I know it is a big issue.
I don't know a ton about specifically LGBTQ people that are on the streets, but I know there's a lot of homeless people. So, of course, I imagine there would be homeless queer people,
I do know a lot of youth that have become homeless, and that's related to them being kicked out of their homes. So I think it's a big issue in our community.
What I know from just from what I've read, sort of through headlines and things like that, is that homelessness is a real issue in our community, especially with younger students who are kicked out of their homes for coming out to their parents and may not have a place to live.
Yes. Yes. So yes, most definitely, and it's a sin. It's a sin when good religious families kick their kids out for being gay, and that's a bigger sin than the gay.
Yeah, I've had to couch surf before, and I know people that have maybe had to be homeless, but obviously friends and people take you in. So
I've been homeless for 4 years, and I have a tight-knit group of friends, homeless kids that I hang out with on a daily basis. And I've noticed that, there's a lot of violence involved. There's a lot of struggles. I've been a victim of the violence a few times. Way too many young adults out there that shouldn't be. So now we're just trying to help get them off the streets as much as possible.
Yeah, actually, a lot of my family has dealt with homelessness. I am the first child of young parents. My mom was 16, my dad was 17, 18, kind of right in there. And so, I remember as a young child being bumped around from house to house to house to house, not really having a home, not really having a place to live. Like, I had a family, so it's not homelessness in the conventional sense that we know to see homelessness and living on the street, but it's definitely stressful when you don't know where you're going to be bedding down for a night, or you don't know where you're going to be sleeping for a night, or where you're going to be eating, or is the person who's supposed to be caring for you going to be there? And I have friends who've dealt with homelessness and who have struggled with it, and it's stressful. It's extremely stressful, and it's not I don't even know where to begin with how to even conceptualize that into words, and how much stress that someone has to deal with that, because it's no wonder it leads to so many other problems, health problems, mental health concerns. Like, there's just so much things that it just spitballs into, because it's the simple fact of just having a home.
Yeah.
Like, every child should have a home.
Yeah.
And it's just a basic thing, and to not have it can cause so many other issues, and people just don't recognize that, and it's so sad.
Yeah.
So.
I fortunately have been very lucky in that I personally haven't had to worry about homelessness, because I just haven't. I mean, the circumstances never lined up in that direction. But I have had a number of friends throughout the years who went through bouts. Nothing long term, I wouldn't say, but I had a friend that lived in his car for about 3 months. I had another friend who her and her mom lived in their car, and I think so. I think with homelessness, especially in a city like Seattle, it is a big issue, and it's not always just the people on the street. There's a lot of people living in cars, living in shelters, living in, different atmospheres that you don't think of as being homeless, but they are. They don't have a home to go to. So,
well, and even being homeless and being homeless youth, shelters aren't even a safe place for you to go as well, and that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
People think that we have shelters and we have these group homes that youth can go to, but those can be just as stressful as sleeping on the streets. And I've talked to a lot of youth. I work as a social worker in the community that would rather sleep on the street in an alley of a doorway than go to a shelter because of the stress that it causes them. And it's disturbing.
Yeah.
It's not even sad. It's just disturbingly horrific.
Well, and I think they're really vulnerable
Right.
In that place. They're vulnerable to older people who might want to take advantage of that situation or take advantage of that person, and it can be a really dangerous environment.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think, too, there's, with homeless youth, particularly for the LGBTQ community, there's a lot of people out there who, you shouldn't be expecting a 16-year-old to afford to pay rent once a month, you know what I mean? And so if these kids are getting kicked out of their houses for, something that they don't have any control over, it makes a lot of sense for us as the out and proud community to kind of shelter them a little bit and bring them in and, give them places to rest and lay their heads and jobs and training and all that good stuff that I think there are a lot of great organizations providing. We just need to do more about making it acceptable and making not a taboo issue or some sort of charitable thing, but just something that you do as part of an LGBT community.